And this evening, I just want to be able to share with you a bit about the SAT exam, a bit about the process, and also my prep course that I offer currently. So Anthony, I do have a PowerPoint to share. I still am not able to share my screen. And Anthony, Mr. Anthony, did you?
Yes, Shanice. Please go into the SATs. We're having a slight technical issues, so please, if you can go into speaking about the SATs,
Sure, no
thank
problem.
you so much.
All right,
Appreciate
no problem. So I'll speak. I have my slides, but I'll share. Nonetheless, okay. So the SAT. Let's just talk a little bit about the SAT exam. What is the SAT exam? The SAT is a standardized test that's widely used for college admissions into the United States. It is a multiple choice paper-based test that is created and administered by the College Board. So the College Board is basically the name of the examining body for the SAT. And you know, just to share a bit more on the SAT for those who are familiar and not familiar, there's two types of SAT exams, and we have what we usually call the SAT 1 and the SAT 2. So the SAT 1, you would usually see it as written or described as the SAT. And the SAT is the SAT 1 or the SAT is the main SAT exam that is comprised of two subject areas, mathematics and English, which I'll share a bit more later. And then the SAT 2 is usually called the SAT subject test. And that is where on the SAT, you can take specialized subjects. So for example, the SAT or the SAT 1 is maths and English, and a math and English exam. And while the SAT subject test is like if you want to do sciences or history and so on. So usually schools, the Ivy League schools or some schools, depending on what you want to study, they would want you to have the SAT and an SAT subject test. But it's not, the SAT subject test is not a large requirement for a lot of schools, right? So I'm just still giving you that basic information. So what we're talking about here is the SAT. The SAT that exam is solely based on real world applications. Just to give you a bit of the basics, the exam itself is 3 hours long with some short breaks in between. And there's an optional essay component that will be 50 minutes long if you decide to take the essay. Now, what the question I usually get from students or parents is, should I take the essay? Well, it usually depends on the school. The SAT changed their format of the exam in March 2016. The former SAT exam, the essay was mandatory. But the new SAT exam, we call it the new redesigned SAT now, the essay is optional. But if you were to ask me, I usually tell students, okay, if you know the schools that you're definitely going to apply to already, and all of them do not require the essay, then you don't need to take the essay. Another area of students, another demographic of students who are not always required to take the essay are the athletic students who are vying for athletic scholarships, soccer scholarships, whatever. You are not required to take the essay most of the times. All right, so that's another option there. And finally, students who are just looking at academic based scholarships or so, you know, if you are not sure what school you're interested in, I always tell students, if you're absolutely not sure, then take the essay. It wouldn't kill you. You know, you can do it. So I usually give students those options. The SAT is comprised of two main sections, as I mentioned before, math and English. And the math is out of 800 and the English is out of 800. So those two main sections or subject areas you are tested on. And but on the full exam, what you might ask, okay, what is going to take me 3 hours? So what's going to take me 3 hours is the four sections on the SAT exam. So you have two English sections at the beginning and two math sections at the end. So that's what's going to take you the 3 hours on the exam. What is the highest score you can make on the SAT, or was it total? It's 1600. The old SAT, the score was 2400. The SAT is now out of 1600. Of course, the average score a student would usually make is about 1060 points out of the 1600. All right. And again, you know, in terms of admissions, different schools have different requirements. So one school would
Mm-hmm.
admit you with the average score of 1060 points, while another school might admit you with 1100, 1200. Or when we talk about scholarships, the higher you score, the more you get. And of course, if you're going for athletic scholarship, you know, your portfolio is a bit different from the academic student. So it's based on, you know, your skill, and, you know, all the coaches could tune in or chime in that area and let you know. But of course, we understand that it's important for you to take the SAT to matriculate. And in terms of eligibility, there is no minimum or maximum age limits. So I would usually say students in the Caribbean system, as early as fourth form level, you can take the SAT, and that's equivalent to about a grade 11 in other educational institutions. Or you can be a young student who is very advanced, right? So what I would usually do, you know, the younger students or even students who might be a bit older, what I would usually do is a placement test with you to see where you're at, because it is important to have a great level of proficiency to write the SAT exam. And also the course, the prep course itself is usually, you know, fast paced. So, you know, it moves at a nice steady pace, but it's quick. So you have to be ready to be able to cover the material that is covered on the SAT exam that we would cover in the prep course. So a lot of students I get, they are usually students who have completed CSEC, or CAPE, or completing CSEC or CAPE. So in fourth form, fifth form, sixth formers, or even students after the fact. Last 2 years, I had a student, he was 26, but he was a national volleyball player. He started my class, and now, you know, thinking that, you know, he's 26, we're not sure what's going to happen. And now he is at an excellent university and also on a partial scholarship and playing on their volleyball team. So, you know, it depends on your portfolio and it depends on your drive at the end of the day. So usually, of course, to matriculate into the colleges, you have to have completed university. So, I mean, high school. So even if you completed the SAT exam before you completed high school, that's fine. That's fine, but you're definitely going to have to complete to have your high school diploma or your full CSEC certificate. And in terms of, I wanted to share with you a bit about the international dates. The international dates. The SAT is offered 4 times a year now internationally, and that is the March exam, the May exam, the October exam, and the December exam. The registration deadlines are usually almost exactly 1 month before the exam. So you have up until 1 month before the exam to complete your registration online. You can register 2, 3 months in advance, that's fine. But your deadline, your cutoff is that 1 month before. If you miss it, you have a short 1 week or 2 week period to pay the late fees, which is a bit costly, but again, it depends on you. just a little bit more on the SAT. It's usually either the first or second Saturday of that particular month. And we have several testing centers depending on where you are. In TNT, we have several testing centers. And of course, throughout the Caribbean, depending on what island you are, you might have one testing center or so. And wherever you are internationally, it will just be to locate the testing center to see if you'd have to make the relevant travels to get there to write the exam. And you know, the US dates are a bit similar to the international dates. So the US dates, you know, if we have anyone in here from the US, we have March exam, May exam, June exam, and October exams. Those are the followings. But the international dates, we do not have an SAT in June. How do you register for the exam? You go to the collegeboard.org, www.collegeboard.org. That's where you register. That's where you make your account, your student account, and you register. Just a short mention there. You can write the SAT. Students, usually the average students write the SAT 2 to 3 times. It doesn't mean that if you write it one time, you know, that's bad. So what happens is sometimes it's all about the scoring and all about, you know, what school you're looking at and what score you have to make. Sometimes a student may not make their score right away. I've had students who made their target score right away, or and then some students did not make their target score right away and they would have taken it 2 or 3 times. In my time, I took the SAT 5 times. So there is not a cap. Although now I would encourage students not to take it so many times, but it's all about your prep and it's all about the work that you put in. Those are the two aspects of making that score. So my students who took the SAT once, they would have put in the work, and then the students who might have taken it 2 or 3 times, maybe the first time they did not put in the work, because I cannot come, you know, to locate you on an evening to see where you are, what you're doing. You are responsible for your progress. All right. So that's something I definitely talk about on the in our SAT prep. So how do my prep cycles run? So what I've done over the years is every year I improve my SAT program. I think about my time, I think about what's happening now, and I try to improve the program, because you always get an interesting and a unique bunch of students who, you know, you can learn from and you know, just gather that feedback so that, you know, in the next cycle it's improved. So what I've done now, what do you find with regular SAT prep courses? It's usually a 3-month prep. I at one point offered a 3-month prep. I found that 3 months of prepping was not enough. Students, and especially with the new exam, it is highly based on real world applications. Even in the mathematics, it's very heavy, and I find 3 months is not enough. So I have engineered my program to be approximately the worth of 4 months. So not all the time it might look like 4 months, but the sessions will add up to a 4-month prep course, and that has been working excellent. And so what I've also implemented over the years is the online component. Of course, now the prep course is fully virtual. So, you know, I have students from other Caribbean islands. Wherever you are, you can enroll in the prep course because it is now fully virtual. So just for an example, the March exam is very close. So any students who would really want to have the March exam done, what will happen is you would enroll in a program I would say is more like a crash course. So it's going to be really quick. And then if you are interested in the May exam, the class would have started this past week, but we are in the introductory phases. So the first 3 weeks of the program, I always say it's quite introductory, where if students join late, they would have all the materials, all the pre-recordings and everything to catch up and receive any relevant assistance. But by time we hit the second month, that's when I say, all right, we are too far along. It's a bit too late. You're gonna have to wait until then. But I take it as a case by case basis. So the March and May, you can say I've already started, but we're just about entering week 2. And then the October exam, the class cycle will begin around June, and then the December exam class cycle will begin around August. And what type of prep, what type of SAT prep, you can say, I might offer. So I have engineered 3 types. So we have the master class. The master class is 14 to 16 weeks, which you can say that's the equivalent of the 4 months. And within those weeks, we would have 1 to 2 sessions. So the students get 30 live sessions, 30 live sessions. And then I'll talk to you more about what else comes with the prep course. The other type of prep is a crash course. A crash course could be as little as 2 weeks to 8 weeks. It depends on how close your exam is and what your proficiency level is after I assess you. And I've had a student recently, he came last minute with about 12 days to go, and we prepped him in about 7 days. And and he got, even though I would not always, I would prefer students take the longer course. We do have students who need that score at the last minute, or maybe it's a student who took the exam before, but they really need that hands-on prep. So I've had that student for about 8 days. So we did that 8 days over a 2-week period. So that's why I said the crash course can be as little as 2 weeks, but as long as 8 weeks, exactly 8 weeks, 8 live sessions. You get all your materials and you're ready to go. Then I have the self-paced program, which it's in its pilot run right now. And that is where I would give students access to recordings, all the materials for a 6 to 8 month period, depending on your situation and when you want to, and when you want to write the exam, you can enroll in the self-pace. So what's included usually in the SAT prep, what's included usually is, as I mentioned before, the 30 hours of live instruction. And that means 30 hours worth, 30 hours plus worth of live instructions on Zoom. And, for the math, just to make an example, what would the students experience in a math session? You will see our real-time whiteboard, just like if we doing, we in a classroom and we're writing on a whiteboard or a chalkboard. So it's not, you're not going to see a PowerPoint. You're going to see, we're going to be there working together. It's interactive, and the students have to do the work. So it's not, okay, I'm just coming, I'm going to teach you for 2 hours and then bye. No, I demand students to participate. That's how you're going to learn. You have to participate. And then what else is included? 16 hours plus of on-demand videos. So those are pre-recorded lecture videos that the students would look at, that will cover the theories, so that when we come to the live session, it's all about strategy, because the SAT exam is all about strategy. And students will also get access to the learning platform that I use, where all the videos, all the handouts, all the class PowerPoints, everything would be there loaded for the student to access, download, save it, print it, whatever you want to do. So that would include, the lecture notes and handouts, practice questions, question banks, quizzes, other SAT resources. The students will get the class schedule, they will get a study schedule. So I will provide some recommendations, based on your schedule and what you're doing in school and what you do on the evenings, with your training or whatnot. You would get a recommended study schedule that we can tweak. Also motivation, of course, which is a must, and mentorship. And after the class, I allow you to have, if required, an additional 6 months access to all the materials from your cycle. So I'm not going to have you join the class again. If all you need is that extra run, maybe you need an extension, maybe we were prepping for the May and you decide, I'm not sure that I'm ready because I had so much to balance and I didn't do well balancing. So, do you think I can write it a few months later? Sure, we would have that conversation and you would have further access to